It sure doesn't look like his last cabinet meeting. It sure doesn't look. I know, I've been watching this thing since it started, and nobody looks uncomfortable, least of which Pete Hegseth. I don't know, I think he's going to be fine. We'll keep an eye on it. Well, like I said, right now, Lori Chavez-DeRemer, the labor secretary, is talking about, I assume labor, but you never can tell with her. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it, but Pete Hegseth is sitting very comfortably right next to the president of the United States, right there on his left. Typically, where he always is during these meetings, and he gave a little speech. And it seemed, with the men and women. Yeah, we'll check in, like I said, here in a minute if anything else happens. But it seemed like everything's fine. Doesn't seem like President Donald Trump's rethinking his choice for Secretary of War. I don't think Donald Trump's looking at it going, maybe there's someone else. Maybe I should have picked differently. No, I think he seems totally content and happy with the choice that he made. Anyway, more on that coming up here in just a minute. That's mostly the fake news media narrative. The fake news they're always looking for, fake news. Imagine what the world would be like if the fake news spent all of their time looking for actual real news instead of creating, fake news. It's all the time that they spent. Maybe they use ChatGPT. I don't know what they use. Maybe they use AI in some way to speed up the process. But if they took all their energy and all their time and all their assets and all their resources, and they actually went out to try to find real news, imagine how well informed we would be. Instead of what they do is they just sit around fabricating and going, and then Pete Hegseth gets fired, see? And then they kill the people in the water. Maybe that could be, I don't know, maybe that's something that we'll see in the coming year or so. I doubt it. The fake news never, just like the Democrats, they never seem to learn their lesson. They always just double down on, bad stuff. Whatever doesn't work for them, they just go, okay, more of that. The Democrats, same way. They can't win elections. They can't get anything passed. They can't bring down President Donald Trump. And they go, okay, you know what we need to do? More of the stuff we just did. And you know who we need to promote? The bad people. I mean, they look at Adam Schiff gets censured. I wish it got censored. Adam Schiff gets censured by the House of Representatives. And what do? Promote him to the Senate. Only the Democrats think that way. That's a strictly Democrat philosophy on life. You've got the other guy. What's his name? The one in California, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom almost got recalled. That's how much Californians hated him. There was a recall election. They almost recalled him. And now he's their leading candidate to be president of the United States. And all of Hollywood is lining up behind him. They're so thrilled. They're so thrilled with Gavin Newsom. I don't understand. It's like the worse you are as a Democrat, the worse you act as a Democrat, the more the fake news loves you and the more that the party tries to promote you. So, but same with Tim Walz. Tim Walz, this guy was chosen to be Kamala Harris's running mate, and he's destroyed Minnesota. He's allowed illegal immigration to run rampant there. He's been, everyone in his state is stealing money from the government, and he's just an all-around weirdo. But they looked at him and, they had Josh Shapiro, who's, whatever. They had J.B. Pritzker. Oh, my God. They probably just couldn't, they probably just didn't have the catering budget. That's probably what it was. They probably looked at J.B. Pritzker and thought, all right, Illinois governor, yeah, he'd be a good choice. But, man, we just don't have the catering budget. I mean, we've got to give Beyonce $11 million to come out and speak for 3 minutes and not sing. How are we ever going to afford J.B. Pritzker? So, anyway, I think that's kind of where we are today. By the way, before we get into this, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for being here, and please subscribe. Please subscribe to this podcast, whether you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, wherever you happen to be. This is the podcast you're going to want to subscribe to because it is simply the best. And is it the most popular? No, not yet. We're getting there. We're moving up the ranks every single day. And you know what? If you shared this with some people, that'd help. I'd appreciate that for sure. But it is clearly the best. It's the most entertaining. It's the most informative. It's the most energetic, and it's the most honest and truthful. And you're not going to find we're not going to sit here and, create controversy for controversy's sake. We're not going to sit here and lie about stuff just so that we can get in the press and we can get in the media and we can get shared. We're not creating clickbait here. We're creating actual news and opinion, and we want you to be part of that. So like I said, share this with like-minded individuals, because we love like-minded individuals and we loathe people who don't think or act or look like us. I'm totally kidding. That's what the Democrats hear when we say we appreciate like-minded people. All they hear is racist, white supremacist. That's what it is. You don't like brown people. That's what they think whenever you say, hey, share this with a like-minded person. They're like, Nazi, fascist. I don't know what's happening today, but I know I'm having a good day. Chris Wright, the energy secretary, is speaking right now at the cabinet meeting. And I'm going to go in live when we get to Marco Rubio, maybe when we get to RFK Jr., but definitely when we get to Marco Rubio, because I know Marco Rubio is going to have a lot of great things to say. But President Donald Trump kicked off this meeting just moments ago by talking, of course, again, about those National Guard troops who were attacked brutally in Washington, D.C. by an unvetted Afghani.
And I want to pay my deepest respects to those two incredible people from the National Guard. In West Virginia they came from. I spoke to their parents. Sarah is gone. She passed away. She's looking down on us now, and she loves her parents, and they loved her. Somebody said, how are they doing? I said, the word is devastated. How are they going to do? They're devastated. The rest of their lives they're going to be devastated. She was an incredible person, highly respected, top of her class, everything. She was like a perfect human being. 20 years old, just started. She was like a baby. She was so proud. They were giving her a promotion, and she told the parents that she was getting a promotion, and they were so proud of her. Then they get a call that this happened. And we have one young man who's fighting for his life. He's fighting very hard. I think he's probably doing better than anybody. They said he didn't have a chance. I'll tell you, the one who said he's going to live is his mother. Spoke to his mother. Sir, he's going to live. I spoke to her very soon after this horrible event took place with this scum that is able to come into our country. I spoke to his mother. Sir, he's going to be okay. I'm telling you. No doctor thought that. Nobody thought that. He was hitting bad places, and she was like so positive. It was incredible. And it's possibly right, Pam, right? Possibly right. Boy, it would be amazing. If he lives, it would be amazing. A miracle, actually.
And that was President Donald Trump, again, referencing the attack last week in Washington, D.C. On those two National Guardsmen, one, of course, who passed away, and the other still fighting for his life. And President Donald Trump, again, not backing down, not doubling, not pulling away. He's ordered more troops to Washington, D.C. because he demands that there be safety. That he demands that the capital city be the best city in the entire world. He demands that Washington, D.C. be the glowing jewel of the world, and that everybody that comes here, every tourist, every foreign national, every leader, everybody, everyone, every visitor, every American, especially as we head toward the 250th anniversary of our country, everybody that comes to the United States of America, he wants to look at this country and say, man, this is the best country ever in life. There's never been a better country than this. This country is truly amazing. Look at it. Look at how amazing this country is. And the Capitol should be equally great and safe. You should never have to worry about walking around the Capitol. And right now, that's not the case. That's not what we're seeing in the capital city. We're seeing a lot of, bad people and a lot of bad stuff. And that's what Donald Trump's trying to do to stop it. But at the same time, and this is kind of cool, he's redoing the airport. Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. A lot of problems with Dulles Airport. He says, look, it's a beautiful building. It's been a great building for a long time. But we've just had some issues with, it's just a horrible airport. Beautiful building, horrible airport. Not well run, not up to the standard of the nation's capital. And they have those people movers, which is really kind of awkward. Every other airport in the world has like a train. It's either an elevated train or a below ground train. They've got the long, walkways with the moving side. They've got tons of ways that you can get where you need to go, get to your next flight. But for some reason, Dulles has those really big, obnoxious, stupid people movers. And I don't know, I guess that's like their thing. But Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, he was in the meeting, of course, because it's a cabinet meeting and he's in the cabinet. And here's what he said about aviation and the changes they've made so far and the continuing changes that they're going to make.
So just quickly on aviation, many of you have heard that we have an infrastructure made of copper. We have to transition to fiber. The last administration said it was going to take more than 10 years to complete the transition from copper to fiber. They had no plan to actually do it. We have already completed a third of this transition from copper to fiber. Now it's going to take longer for us to go from analog to digital. By the way, the rest of the world transitioned 20 years ago from analog to digital. We are just going to do that at the FAA right now, but we're buying new radios. We're going to buy new radar. By the way, those radar are going to be made in America, Mr. President. This phase of the operation will be completed by the time you leave office. It's 3 years. I do need another $20 billion, Congress, to start the second phase, which is really important, and we'll try to get that done also in that 3-year time period, but we need the money, critically important. With regard to commercial driver's license, I think we've covered a lot the crashes that have taken place around the country, and what we found is there have been states that have issued commercial driver's license to foreigners, and they've gone through sham schools, and they're not safe on American roadways. And so, in partnership with Secretary Noem, we have driven those numbers down. We got California, Gavin Newsom, to revoke 17,000 unlawfully issued licenses. We've closed down half of the fake schools that give out these fake licenses, all critically important. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota gave 33% of these licenses unlawfully. People that should never have a driver's license driving a big rig on American roads, endangering the American people, shameful. We've cleaned up Union Station here in D.C. per your directive. We're going to rebuild Penn Station in New York. We're going to break ground at the end of 2027, get that project operational. And, Mr. President, a lot of us, I fly commercially, I fly back by the bathrooms. I don't know why that happens. They put me in the back. We've asked Americans to bring their better selves, to bring civility back to travel, to say, listen, let's say please and thank you. And if you have someone's pregnant on your flight and you're as strong as Pete is, well, pick up the bag and help her put it in the overhead bin. Let's be nice to each other, is what we've asked. Maybe not wear pajamas or slippers on the airplane. And I think it's been received fairly well, and I think we can all have a better travel experience when we do that. And just the last point I'll make is there was a big football game where the Merchant Marine Academy that falls under DOT actually beat the Coast Guard with Kristi Noem. We beat them by 1 point, and so we're very proud of that. And,
very exciting. Anyway, that was Patrick Duffy. Patrick Duffy's totally different. That was Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, America's travel daddy, telling you not to wear your pajamas or your slippers, to dress up a little bit, and also help the pregnant lady with her bags. What's wrong with that? Why do we need the Secretary of the Transportation Department to remind big, strong men to help pregnant women with their bags? I just don't understand that. That's just years ago when I lived in Washington, D.C., my wife was pregnant with our son, and she got on the subway every day to go downtown, and she would always come back and she'd be like, I had to stand because no one would give me their seat. And I thought to myself, where have all the men gone? They're all just worthless. But yeah, if you're a big, strong man, help the pregnant lady with her bag, and don't wear slippers. If you're pregnant, you can wear maternity wear, but no pajama bottoms or anything. We want to keep it kind of formal. And then there was Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, who is, man, this guy, I got to tell you, I don't think there's a more hated cabinet official than Pete Hegseth. And I don't know if it's because he was a Fox and Friends weekend host, not even a Fox and Friends weekday host. He wasn't like Brian Kilmeade, right? This guy was on the weekends. Pete Hegseth. I don't know if it's because he's got all the tattoos. I don't know if it's because he's actually buff. I don't know if it's because he's, pumped about the military being well-trained and lethal. I don't know if it's because he's better looking than probably 90% of the people in the world. But for whatever reason, they hate Pete Hegseth. He's very Christian. He overcame alcohol and drugs, and he's a Christian guy. He reads the Bible. He's very faithful. He's got 92 kids. So there's a lot of things about Pete Hegseth to not like. And they do not like Pete Hegseth in the media, and they're always trying to bring this guy down. They tried to bring him down after Signalgate, when, our good buddy Mike Waltz was redistributed to the UN as a result. And as far as I know, the National Security Advisor is still Marco Rubio. But I have to double check. I think Marco Rubio still has 8 titles, and National Security Advisor is still one of them. But then you've got Pete Hegseth, who changes the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Media hated that. You've got Pete Hegseth, who, this was my favorite, told the media you can no longer just wander around aimlessly. You're no longer allowed to wander around the Pentagon aimlessly, look at top secret documents, and try to finagle pieces of information you're not supposed to have from people that work here. And the media got so mad, all of them. They all got so mad. They were like, well, then we're not going to cover the Pentagon anymore. And Pete Hegseth said, fine, turn in your credentials. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And you know who they have now? By the way, this is the best. Do you know who's at the Pentagon now? You know who just got a desk? Look at this. This is Laura Loomer, our good buddy. Laura Loomer, after the media threw a hissy fit and said, we're not going to go to the Pentagon anymore if you won't let us roam around poking through documents and talking to people we shouldn't talk to. After they had to turn in their credentials, there were like 60 open seats. And so Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon said, hey, if you're alternative media and you're willing to play by our rules, go ahead and apply for a seat. And Laura Loomer got one. And she posted a photo of herself at the Pentagon as a correspondent. And man, not bad for my first day on the job. Man, people just went. They're probably still going. There's probably still. This is a great photo, by the way. It's a great photo. But I have a similar photo. I was at the Pentagon years ago. It was so funny. I was such an idiot back then. Not anymore. Now I'm brilliant. But back then I was such an idiot. I was walking through the Pentagon and we were taking a tour of the Pentagon. We got to the media room and we walked in. It's a lot smaller than you think. But they had the podium up there and it said, the Pentagon, whatever, Secretary of Defense, yada, yada. I guess it was Don Rumsfeld at the time. And we were in there and they were like, you can go up to the podium, whatever, blah, blah. And I asked the guy, I go, can I take a picture? And he goes, yeah, you can take a picture. And I go, it's okay. It's all right that I take a picture in here. And he said, well, we broadcast this room to hundreds of millions of people around the globe. So yeah, I think it's okay if you took a picture. I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. He's like, see those cameras in the back? That's a live feed to every news station in the world. So yeah, this room is totally, you're fine taking a photo here to show to your kids or your family later. That's not a problem. You can put it on your MySpace page, buddy. No problem. No problem whatsoever. I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Can I photograph this room that everyone takes photos of every day, or is that against the rules? But anyway, Pete Hegseth, so they hate the guy. They totally hate the guy for various different reasons. But Pete Hegseth doesn't care. The latest thing they're trying to get him on is this bombing of the boats, the Venezuelan drug boats. Drug boats come from Venezuela full of drugs, fentanyl and everything else, and they're racing at full speed toward the United States of America in the open water and in international waters. And we know what's aboard them, drugs. And we know that if they get to the United States of America, we know what's going to happen. The drugs are going to go into the United States. People are going to take them and 25,000 Americans are going to die. And so every drug boat, Donald Trump says, that we blow out of the water, we save 25,000 Americans. Now, there could be anywhere from 3 to 11 narco-terrorists on these drug boats. And when you bomb the narco-terrorists on these drug boats, not only do the drugs, get funneled into the water. I don't know if the fish get stoned on fentanyl. I don't know how it works, but the drugs don't make it to the United States. Not only that, but the 3 to 11 narco-terrorists also get blown to smithereens. So you've got fentanyl all over the bottom of the ocean and little tiny bits of narco-terrorists also all over the ocean, although I think the fish probably eat them. I think they become fish food. And that's basically the price you pay for being a drug-running narco-terrorist on a boat in international waters headed to the United States of America to kill 25,000 Americans. Donald Trump looks at it like, okay, 25,000 American lives or 3 to 11 narco-terrorist lives. Tough one. The American citizens could be teenagers. They could be housewives. They could be college kids. They could be hardworking people that just, got a bad, had a bad break, or, were doing something. They got caught in a bad situation. They could be people that don't even know what they're taking, but they're getting slipped something and they die. 25,000 Americans, or 11 people who've basically dedicated their lives to producing deadly substances and illegally smuggling them into the United States of America, who probably work for cartels and gangs that are just thuggish and brutal and inhumane. You know what? We'll take the 25,000 Americans and we'll just bomb the snot out of the 3 to 11 narco-terrorists. So that's what they've been doing. And one boat, apparently on September the 2nd, they bombed, boom, and the drugs went to the bottom of the ocean, and most of the narco terrorists also got obliterated, but apparently a couple of them, word on the street is, survived. So there was a second attack that made sure that they did not survive. And now Pete Hegseth is being called a war criminal. Well, as he strutted into this meeting with his finely coiffed hair and his well-pressed suit and his very, very, calm and cool and collected and confident demeanor, sat down right next to the president and gave his report. He was not at all concerned about being a potential war criminal.
As you said, it has been a historic year at the Department of War. Recruiting and retention over this year are at the most historic levels our country has ever seen. I had a chance to be on an aircraft carrier destroyer over Thanksgiving. The spirit in our ranks since the election under President Trump is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it as a soldier myself in uniform, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. We've ripped out the DEI and the political correctness. It's all merit-based at the department. We're getting back to basics: accountability, training, readiness, lethality, and that's reviving that spirit. And Mr. President, we're rebuilding the military, historic investments. I just took briefings on the Golden Dome and F-47, next generation capabilities that are going to make sure that for generations to come, America has the most powerful, most capable, most lethal military in the world, which you have rebuilt once and we're rebuilding again. And then we're reestablishing deterrence and credibility. If you look at what happened, we deal with every day the outcome of what happened in Afghanistan, the debacle under Joe Biden. We just dealt with it in the streets of Washington, D.C. with those 2 National Guardsmen. And then what happened on October 7th with Hamas, what happened in Ukraine, a war that never would have started under President Trump. We're having to rebuild that. So whether it's freedom of navigation and taking the fight to the Houthis, whether it's Midnight Hammer, those beautiful B-2s going 37 hours back and forth undetected, delivering with precision, and Iran not getting nuclear capabilities, Europe and NATO stepping up to 5%, locking down our southwest border. It's been an honor to work with Christy and Tom and everyone else down there to lock it to 0, operational control of our border. And then it's getting after and going after narco terrorists and designated terrorist organizations in our own hemisphere. As I've said, and I'll say again, we've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean.
Okay, listen to the defiance there. He's looking right at the media because the media is there. I mean, this is being broadcast all over the world. They're ready and willing and able, and they want to hear all this. He goes, look, we've only just begun. We've only just begun. He's like Karen Carpenter. We've only just begun blowing narco terrorists out of the water. So for those of you that think you're going to put a stop to this, or for those of you who think you're going to scare us into submission, for those of you who think we're not going to protect American citizens, oh, you got another thing coming. We've only just begun. If you think that the 6 or 7 boats that we blown out of the water, the survivors we took out with the second shot, if you think all the fish food we made from these drug cartel thugs, if you think we're done, we've only just begun to live, or I guess to kill.
Because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves. And allowed them to come across the border, cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations. And it's exactly what we're doing. So we're stopping the drugs, we're striking the boats, we're defeating narco terrorists, and we're standing.
And you may say one thing, that drugs coming in through the sea by sea are down 91%. And I don't know who the 9% is.
I'm not sure either, sir.
But down 91% by sea.
We've had a bit of a pause because it's hard to find boats to strike right now.
Yeah, like that. You know what? We've been so successful that we can't even find boats to strike. We're out there. We're looking. We got more munitions. We got more drones. We got more trigger-happy Navy men and Coast Guard troops, and we've got them. We're ready to go. If we see a drug boat coming at us, we will obliterate it. But it's been tough going. Ain't no boats no more. Probably because they know the deal. And Donald Trump's like, look, 91%. Still, there's 9% of the drugs coming over the sea. He's like, I don't know how that happens. But 91% decrease in drug trafficking over the waterways. Why? Because of deterrent. Deterrent is important.
Which is the entire point right? Deterrence has to matter, not arrest and hand over and then do it again, the rinse and repeat approach of previous administrations. This is meant to get after that approach. And I will just end by saying, as President Trump always has our back, we always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations, and we do in this case and all these strikes. They're making judgment calls and ensuring that they defend the American people. They've done the right things. We'll keep doing that, and we have their backs, Mr. President.
Yeah, we got their back. So that's basically Pete Hegseth
Mark,
saying.
this comes after the Washington Post reported.
Why am I hearing myself? I mean, not that. Look, I don't mind talking. I don't mind hearing myself. I'm just saying that's yesterday's clip. Anyway, that's Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, basically saying to the media, you're not going to stop me. You can call me a war criminal. You can say that I gave orders to murder people. You can say this, that, or the other. You can have the seditious six come forward and tell everybody to ignore the illegal orders, even though none of these orders are illegal. You can do all of this stuff. You can do whatever you want. But our job is to keep the American people safe and to kill the drug people and make sure that the drugs don't get to the United States of America. And look, instead of coming after the military for striking the drug boats, why don't you say, hey, drug people, maybe don't get in a boat with drugs and come to the United States of America? I mean, if no one else is going to do it, if the media is not going to go there and say, stop bringing drugs to the United States or our military is going to destroy you, instead of attacking the military, why don't you attack the bad guys? The bad guys are the drug runners. That's what Donald Trump's doing. That's what Pete Hegseth is doing. That's what his commanders are doing. And they have not even begun their fight. Man, if Nancy Reagan could have, you remember Nancy Reagan, the war on drugs? She was like, just say no. Just say no. Okay, fine. That's similar, but here we've got Donald Trump has a different take on it. Instead of just say no, he says ready, fire, aim. Ready, aim, fire. Maybe ready, fire, aim. Yeah, it's one or the other. It's one or the other. But that's how you got it. That's how you stop these things. And President Donald Trump said, look, it's not just the drug boats. You know what else we've stopped? We've stopped illegal immigration. Why? Deterrence. Because in the old days, you would have an illegal alien come to the United States of America. You'd give them a ticket and say, come back in 6 months for your court hearing. You'd never see them again. Well, that's great. Everybody was coming to the United States then. Everybody loved it. Nowadays, you come into the United States illegally, you get hauled away by ICE and deported back to your country, and you're never allowed to come back ever again, legally, illegally, anyway, shape or form. You cannot seek asylum. You won't get it. Why? You were deported for being here illegally. So millions of illegal aliens decided, you know what, we're just going to go home on our own and apply the right way, the legal way, to come back into the country. And so that's cool. That's the way you want to do it. That's the way people should act. And Donald Trump says, as a result, 0 illegal aliens. 0.
For 6 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted into the United States. You believe that? 0. We had millions of people coming in a year, millions. Now we have 0 for 6 months. And these are given by radical left people that do the numbers. I mean, they're not doing them any favor. They're being, we don't have, our net numbers are unbelievable. But we had 0 people in the last 6 months. Illegal border crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded. And nobody talks about that anymore. You know, it's crazy. They don't talk about it. You'd think they'd say, well, Trump's done a great job in the border.
Yeah. I don't know why that cut off right there. I guess that's why they just cut it off. They decided to cut it off there. But yeah, they're like, Donald Trump's like, look, we've done a great job with the border. We've stopped the border crossings. There's no more illegal border crossings. It's the lowest it's ever been. And this is after millions and millions of people were allowed in this country illegally by Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Oh, by the way, I have to show you this. I don't know if you saw this. This was apparently Joe Biden. Everyone thought he was retired. No, apparently Joe Biden, get this, is a kicker for the New York Giants. I don't know if you saw this or not. This is Young Ho Koo doing his best Joe Biden impression last night on Monday Night Football. He goes to kick he's a kicker for the Giants, and he goes and he runs up to the ball, and instead of kicking the ball, he kicks the ground in front of the ball. And it's just, I don't know what's happening. It's almost like that, you know, it's like the reverse of Charlie Brown and Lucy, where Lucy lifts up the ball. The holder's got the ball. He's got a good hold on it. Laces are out. And this guy, Young Ho Koo, runs up to the ball, and instead of kicking it, kicks the ground a good foot. I mean, it's not even, he wasn't even close. He kicked the ground like a good foot before he got to the ball. And the first thing I thought to myself was, oh my God, if Joe Biden were a kicker, this is exactly what he would do. Now, a lot of people are saying, and I don't know if this is true or not, a lot of people are saying this is like one of those betting scandals where he was trying to keep it at a particular score or whatever. So I don't know why you wouldn't just miss at the, see, I don't buy that, because I think that if you're illegally betting, you just want to look bad at your job, not totally inept as a human being, right? So if you're a kicker and you're trying to miss a field goal, I feel like you still make contact with the ball. I feel like you still kick the ball. You just kick it wide left or kick it wide right or kick it short or whatever you do. I don't feel like you miss the ball entirely and bury your foot, which, I mean, it looks like it hurt too. It looks like it really, really hurt. Just bury it right into the turf. I mean, you could definitely get turf toe. You get all kinds of disgusting things. Just bam. That's a Joe Biden kicking a football. It's just, sorry. I totally got distracted. And I don't even remember why. You know what? Let's get to Russ Vought, shall we? Russ Vought. Remember him? Remember Russ Vought, the Grim Reaper? During the government shutdown, Donald Trump said, we're going to just start cutting everything. We're going to cut everything we can possibly cut. We're going to have the Grim Reaper go in, and the rifts, the reduction in forces are going to begin. The rifts started, and the rifts started going, and people were getting cut, and people were getting fired, and then all of a sudden they stopped, and then all of a sudden we didn't see Russ Vought anymore, and then it was all weird. It wasn't really as exciting as we originally thought. I thought for sure that we were going to have like the government was going to be half the size that it was, but that didn't happen. Anyway, Russ Vought, who has been very quiet, or at least not in the forefront since the government shutdown ended, was back in the cabinet meeting, and he got his turn, and he said, look, we're still cutting. We're just not doing it with the spotlight on us like we used to.
President, last time I was here, I said that the amount of dereg that we had for regulatory was 30-1. Since then, it's up to 48-1. Your goal had been 10-1, which was in excess of 6-1 in the first term. It's actually much higher than that, but I made my team redo the threshold a little bit because it sounded so unbelievable. But the amount of work that's being done with this entire team is astronomical. And another detail in that is that when we propose a rule, some of the biggest ones that you care the most about don't go into that count until they are finalized. So next year we should be even more eye-popping. One of those to talk about is the federal acquisitions regulations, which you gave us a charge 6 months ago to dramatically reduce. In 6 months, we've lowered it by 25%. 500 pages, 2,700 mandates, which is a third of the mandates. That's going to lead to savings, competition, and speed. So probably $40 billion for the agencies in savings over the course of 10 years. When we get up and running, it'll be north of between $200 and $400 billion. Competition, about 45% of government bids only have one bidder. So you got no competition in that situation. That will now change, and then we're just getting faster. Months, and hopefully we turn it into years, which means you all around this table can buy things that you need quickly, and that you have better vendors to come, many of them small businesses who want to participate in the federal procurement process. So making all sorts of improvements on that front is very exciting. Thank you.
All right, there you go. So that's Russ Vought. He's saying, and you know what? He sounds really like, I mean, he's an accountant, so it sounds really boring. But Charlie Kirk called him a rock star. And when you see the fruits of his labors, you'll understand why. By the way, we're coming to the end, and I've been monitoring this meeting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is speaking, and he speaks a lot. Then we have, it looks like Doug Burgum, Department of the Interior, and then Marco Rubio, who you want to hear from. And then after that, I think it's going to be questions from the media, which should be good. There should be a lot of good questions from the media. And by good questions, I mean totally biased, one-sided questions from the media. That's what I mean by good questions from the media. I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. Let me just pull this up real quick and see. Let's just listen in quickly to RFK Jr.
We're going to destroy the nursing home industry in those communities, and that is going to be a $25 billion savings. Those are some of the things that we're doing because of your leadership, President Trump. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas.
Oh, he's wrapping up. We caught him right at the end. We caught him right at the end, and now it's Doug Burgum. Anyway, so we'll check. Like I said, we'll check. Oh wait, I didn't mean to pause it.
Incredibly talented group here. If you took a look at,
yeah, I didn't mean to pause it. But what I will do is we'll just mute it. We'll keep an eye out for Marco, because I think, like I said, Marco Rubio He's got some stuff to say. The war. Here's the big topics today, and the media is going to jump in on all this. They're going to jump in, of course, on the narco boats. They're going to want to ask questions about Pete Hegseth. They're going to want to ask questions about whether Donald Trump is thinking about replacing him, which we know he's not. They're going to probably ask questions about the orders given and whether the admiral was being thrown under the bus and yada, yada, yada. They're going to ask all that kind of, that's the kind of stuff that they're going to focus on. They're not going to ask anything, by the way, about the seditious six. They're not going to ask anything about whether or not, what's going to happen to the people who are encouraging the enlisted men and women to defy orders that they think are illegal but that aren't. They're going to do all that. They're going to ask all those kind of questions, and they're going to ignore the ones that people really care about. Then they're going to get into the war in Ukraine probably. They're probably going to get into what else is the fake news media going to get into? Probably something ridiculous. I would imagine they're going to talk a little bit more about Russia and this peace agreement. And maybe the ballroom will come up. Who knows what they're going to talk about, but they'll have some ridiculous questions. And we'll be right here because that's my favorite part. That's my favorite part. Now, heading into, by the way, the next election cycle, which is 2026, we find ourselves on the right in a very tough spot. We are in a predicament. We have no Donald Trump on the ticket, which is going to be bad because Donald Trump is very popular. The Republican Party is not. Donald Trump is super popular. Republicans, not so much. People love Donald Trump. Moderates love Donald Trump. Some Democrats love Donald Trump. Republicans love Donald Trump. In fact, if you don't love Donald Trump, you just hate Donald Trump. But Republicans, there's a lot of Trump-loving Republicans who just don't like the Republican Party. They don't like their Republican representatives. They don't like Congress. And they're not going to be really inspired to go out and vote in 2026 because, as we said before, no Donald Trump on the ballot. And with no Donald Trump on the ballot, that means you need some really charismatic leaders. You need some big characters to get out the vote. You need some folks to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to move people. Here's how we're going to get people to go into the ballot box and vote for Republicans so that we can retain control of Congress, so that we can retain control of the Senate, so that we don't lose power, so that Donald Trump doesn't get impeached again, because that's exactly what's going to happen if the Republicans lose. And that's why 2026 is so important. And that's why Donald Trump holds these cabinet meetings and gives all these speeches and gives all these talks and allows the media to come in for everything, because he needs America to know that he needs to remain in power so that things can get done. Things don't get done with the Democrats. Things do not get done, or no good things get done with the Democrats. Here's Marco.
To be in this role, it's also an honor to be involved in and be a witness to what I believe is the most transformational year in American foreign policy since the end of the Second World War, at least. And it's transformational because for the first time in a long time, we have a president who basically puts America at the forefront of every decision we make in our relations with the world. And that may sound weird to people, like, of course you always do. No, that hasn't always been the case until about a year ago. And I think we've all witnessed in our own respective spaces how in every interaction the president has with the world, the goal he has in mind is very simple. Does what you want us to do, or is it what we're going, or is it going to make us stronger? Is it going to make us richer? Is it going to make us safer? If it is, he's for it. If it's not, he's against it. If something's going to make America weaker or poorer or less safe, the president's going to be against it. And every single thing he has done in our foreign policy has been driven by the American people in mind. And I can go down the list. Why has he focused on mass migration? It's very simple, because no country is safe if you can just walk in without us knowing who you are into your country. We've seen the destruction that that's wreaking, not just in our own country, but the impact that it's having in Europe and in many other parts of the world. You talk about trade deals and the trade situation has been involved in. People, all this reporting on it. It's very simple. The president views the last 40 years as an era of which American workers and American farmers have been ripped off. They've been ripped off, and what he's saying is we want to have trade with the world, but it has to be a trade in which American businesses and American workers and the products they make and what American farmers grow and produce has a fair shot to be sold around the world. On issue after issue, that's been the case. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This is not our money. This is taxpayer money. When the president has said is we're going to do foreign aid, but we're going to do foreign aid for countries that are aligned with the United States and in a way that doesn't waste the taxpayers' money. Mr. President, you deserve tremendous credit for that. Many of us, the Vice President, by the way, I want to acknowledge, has played an extraordinary role in our foreign policy, and he too has been a witness to all of this as it's been occurring, and he's been a big part of it as well.
Shout out to the future running mate.
The President's not against NATO. He went to NATO and basically said, look, You guys were paying all the money, and he got them to do the 5% commitment, which everybody said was never going to happen. It was impossible. Everything this president does is driven by the American people. Whether you don't have to agree with the actual move, but understand the motivation. The motivation is always you, the American people, and what's good for you, for your family, for the country, and for our economy. But the president is also committed to peace in a way that all of us have seen. He achieved in Gaza, and he does it, by the way, not just because he hates war and he thinks wars are a waste of money and lives, but because he's the only leader in the world that can. No other leader in the world could have pulled off what happened in Gaza. And I can tell you, I can't get into the details. The vice president knows what I'm talking about. That deal doesn't happen without the president's direct interaction with the leaders that were involved in this decision.
That means he cursed
and everyone
somebody
said
out.
that deal couldn't hold. And then the president shepherded through the United Nations of all places to get a global coalition of countries to line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace. And it's still, every day is a challenge, but it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started, it never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it, not because, listen, we got a million things to focus on in the world as a country, but he's the only leader in the world that can help end it. And that's why even as we speak to you now, Steve Witkoff is in Moscow trying to find a way to end this war, to save lives of 9,000 people, Mr. President, as you know, are dying every week. More people are dying a week in that war than have died in the entirety of the U.S.'s involvement in Afghanistan or Iraq. Just think about that, how bloody and destructive it is. The president's taken on this issue of Sudan personally, not send out deputies to do it. Again, far away from the United States, because he's the only leader in the world that can bring it about to an end, not to mention all the other peace deals, very dangerous ones like India and Pakistan or Cambodia and Thailand. And so on all these things, Mr. President, I think you deserve tremendous credit for the transformational aspect of our foreign policy. For the first time in probably 4 decades, the American foreign policy is driven by what is good for America and Americans, whether it makes us safer and stronger and more prosperous. If it is, he's for it. If it doesn't, he's against it. And that sort of clarity is transformational. I close with this, and I know I'm last, so I wanted to be fast, but there was a lot to cover. I do want to say this is the most wonderful and magical time of the year. By that, of course, I'm referring to the college football playoffs. And I just want to say this as a point of personal privilege. And I'm a Florida Gator, but if the University of Miami gets screwed out of the college football playoffs after going 10-2 and beating Notre Dame, the whole thing should be scrapped, and you're going to have to take over it next year.
There you go. That's Marco Rubio with his big report. And
it wasn't too long, but it was very concise, and we've done a lot. This group has done a lot. Amazing. Everybody at this table has done a fantastic. And Susie, thank you for doing a great job, as our chief has said. First female.
Shout out to Susie Wiles
of our country, which is pretty amazing when you think
Shout out to Susie Wiles, who's in there as well.
She's the best. Thank you very much. Great job.
Yeah. Although giving her a big round of applause. They do that again because she doesn't usually speak in these things, but also.
Do you want to ask any questions?
Oh, here we go. Here come the questions. Also, there has been rumor that she's on her way out.
Speculation about who the next Fed chairman could possibly be. You said you
the Fed chair.
Somebody in mind.
Yeah.
How many names were you given on the final list? And does that person currently work on the board of the Fed Reserve?
Well, I'd say that we probably looked at 10. Then Scott interviewed some people that I didn't know, but he knew. And a lot of people were involved in the process, actually, and Howard was involved. But I think we probably looked at 10, and we have it down to 1.
Can you answer this?
We have it done.
About Elon Musk, if I could. You talked about Elon Musk. You had him at dinner here in the White House. Is he now back in your circle of friends?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I like Elon a lot. He was he really helped during the election with his endorsement. He felt strongly. Look, we had one problem. I didn't want to have everybody have to have an electric car, and he makes electric cars. And I think we get along well.
On affordability,
That was an interesting answer.
When you talk about affordability, is going forward, are the American people, do you believe, getting impatient with the reforms that you're making? They talked about
I think they're getting fake news from guys like you. Look, affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats who caused the problem of pricing, and they didn't end it. look, they lost in a landslide. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. You take a look at districts, it was 2,750 to 500, 525, because that was an affordability problem. We brought it down. Look at energy. Look at the gasoline price. That's like the simplest, and it's the biggest, because if energy comes down, everything comes down. That's the way it works. We are going to be at 250. You said 199 in some places in the country, right? You said it. I didn't say it. And they won't check you; they'll check me. So I like to use your number. 199 a gallon. Unthinkable. If you go back a year and a half ago, it's unthinkable. So now we're bringing the prices down, way down. Beef is coming down now. We've done certain magic, and beef is coming down. But we inherited horrible prices. We inherited really the worst inflation in history. We inherited that. When I came in, that's what he had. And we fixed inflation. And we fixed almost everything, if you want to know the truth, including 8 wars. We got 1 to go, but including 8 wars. But when they always say, I watched today where they have a race going on right now in Tennessee, and this woman goes, affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. The prices were way high. We're bringing the prices down. But they're like scam artists. They're I call them con men and women. They come out, they say affordability, like, oh, I see prices. We're going to get prices down still further. But we brought them down from the prices they cost. The reason that they had the highest inflation in the history of our country is because they had the highest prices. But we brought them down, and now we have normal inflation. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for taking questions.
Thank you.
Assembled
Sure.
cabinet. I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike? And Mr. Secretary, I wanted to clarify something you had said in the interview back in September, I believe on Fox News. You said that you would watch that strike live on television. In real time, did you know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives, 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation. Because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with 2 people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along. And, a lot of the press would like to say they're not. You see the boat. They're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job. And Pete has done an amazing job. But Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. You got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on four-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said...
He definitely doesn't like the press.
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes, or you had left the room?
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
So remember this, we lost last year, I think it was more than that, but people don't like saying it because they always said 100,000, 115,000, numbers we've been hearing for years. So we lost last year more than 200,000 people, dead people, ruined families beyond the 200,000. And those 200,000, that family will never be the same. But these people have killed over 200,000 people, actually killed over 200,000 people last year. And those numbers are down. Those numbers are down. They're way down. And they're down because we're doing these strikes, and we're going to start doing those strikes on land too. The land is much easier. It's much easier. And we know the routes they take. We know everything about them. We know where they live. We know where the bad ones live. And we're going to start that very soon too.
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President.
And you know what? When we start that, we're going to drive those numbers down so low. And then you're going to have families be able to live without the fear of their son or daughter just having a pill to have a little fun and ending up dying within a period of 60 seconds, right? No, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it continue to happen. What Biden did to this country by allowing all these people, and I call them animals in many cases, I think they're animals, to come into our country and destroy our country and let all those drugs pour in, let people just walk across the border like it was nothing. you look at them, a lot of them, you say, oh, let's not discriminate. I'm not talking about color. I'm just talking about you look into the eyes of some of these people. We're smart. And you see a killer. Come on in. Just come on in. 11,888 murderers. Many of them committed more than one murder. He allowed them into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. But he also allowed drugs to come in at record numbers. And hundreds of thousands of people a year died. And we're taking those son of a bitches out,
Thank you so
there
much,
you go.
President, for taking your questions.
There you-
I think this is the most transparent administration I've ever seen.
I'm impressed by these people. I'll tell you, how strong are you? You've been holding it for 2 hours. There are very few physically. There are very few people who could do that.
He's talking about the boom mics and the boom mic
I have no
operators
idea who you are, but you're strong.
who are holding up these boom mics for
Thank you,
2
Mr.
hours.
President. Mr. President, last week, militia groups in Iraq attacked the Christian region's gas field, the largest gas field, which even the U.S. companies invested in the energy sector in the Christian region. And the Christian Prime Minister requested the United States to provide them some sorts of means and defense system to defending their civilian infrastructure and U.S. investment in the Christian region.
I can't understand what he's
Are you
saying.
willing to providing them the support? And if I had this question, tomorrow the United States is going to open and inaugurate.
Can you speak louder?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Possible? Yeah, the most gentle, beautiful voice, man. Gentle.
Yeah. Speak up, buddy. We can't hear you.
Fewer words and louder.
Yeah, sure.
Fewer words.
I repeat my first question. Last week, the Iraqi militia groups attacked.
I don't know. I'm kind of over this guy. Anyway, so there you go. That's President Donald Trump taking questions from the media directly. Vice Freudian slip. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth also. I feel like Pete Hegseth gave a very good answer. I feel like he maybe spoke a little too much. I think that maybe off the cuff, he probably didn't have to go into so much detail. I think that he definitely has animus. He's got a little bit of and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I don't want you to think this is a bad thing, but he's got a little bit of that Colonel Jessup in him, doesn't he? Like when the media starts questioning him, when he gets cross-examined, when somebody says, so you made that decision to sink the boat? Well, he doesn't like that. And he got into the whole fog of war speech. Wasn't that very reminiscent? God, I wish I had it recorded. Wasn't his whole fog of war speech very reminiscent of Colonel Jessup from A Few Good Men when he's like, that's called the fog of war. And you journalists don't know about it, stuck up there in your little air-conditioned offices. It's very much like, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Because in quiet places that you don't talk about it, cocktail parties, all that. It was very... I could definitely see this kind of thing playing out. Not that he's doing anything wrong. Not that he's, like ordered a code red or anything like that. But he had that whole, I don't like the fact that you sleep under the blanket of freedom that I provide and then question the way I provide it. That's exactly, if I were Pete Hegseth, I would have just quoted that. I would have just said that. I would have said that exactly to you know what I don't like? I don't like you sleeping under the blanket of freedom I provide and then questioning the way I provide it. I just prefer you said thank you. That's such a great movie and such a great role. Anyway, I see that coming out of Pete Hegseth a little bit when the media starts to question his ability and his authority and what he did with these drug boats. But, that's the way. You need folks in the military who are going to keep us safe no matter what. You need folks in the military making the hard choices quickly, the hard, informed choices quickly. And at the end of the day, it appears that we're all safer. There's fewer narco-terrorists. There's fewer drugs. 25,000 Americans are going to be alive that potentially could have died because of these drugs. And that's a pretty good thing, I think.
Do you have any update from Mr. Wyckoff and Mr. Kushner?
No,
on that?
because I've been spending too much time with you. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in here. We wanted to do this you talk about being open and transparent. This has to be the most transparent administration in history. No kidding.
This thing started at like noon, I think.
We spent a lot of time answering your questions and giving you a lot of good results. I mean, I think everybody here gave you good results. But no, I don't. I will have after I leave here.
But do you hope for a breakthrough, or is it not quite at that stage?
I don't know. Look, I don't know. All I can tell you is that we're trying very hard to save 25 to 30,000 people, mostly men, mostly soldiers, every month. 25,000 to 30,000 soldiers, It's impossible. That's half a stadium. Take a big football stadium. Take half of those people in a stadium, and they're wiped out. They're killed every month. It's crazy. That war is crazy. And it would have never happened with me, and it didn't happen for 4 years.
You just mentioned potential land strikes. Can you elaborate anything on that? Are you talking
Yeah,
about
I'll elaborate. If they come in through a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? And then they sell us their cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
So not necessarily just Venezuela.
No, not just Venezuela, no. Venezuela's been very bad. Venezuela's been really bad in something else, probably worse than most, but a lot of other people do it too. They would send murderers into our country. They would empty their jails into our country. They sent people into our country that we don't want. They sent their drug dealers and their drug people into our country. They sent people from their mental institutions into our country, and we're getting them out. That was bad. That was real bad. And they also sent drugs. Yeah.
I'm Tim Walz, Mr. President. Do you think he should resign over the fraud?
Oh, a Tim Walz question.
And who should?
Tim Walz, over the fraud scandal in the state.
Look, I think the man's a grossly incompetent man.
Yeah.
I thought that from the day I watched JD destroy him in a debate. I was saying, who was more incompetent, that man or my man? I had a man and he had a man. They were both incompetent. And
I forgot about that. That was great.
I had a man and a woman. I thought she was very incompetent too, but now she's leading the field. And I think she's leading the field for the nomination. Anyway, look, that's up to them. That's up to the Democrats. You know, the problem with them is they have really bad policy. And I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want them to change it necessarily because I want to run against it, whether it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody that's going to probably sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people running together sitting at this table, you know. But
Donald Trump dropping the hints again.
Because we've done a great job for this country and I want that to be carried forward. And, you know, I think we have a tremendous bench, really a tremendous bench. But, no, I think that Walz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him, okay? There's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes. But this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off. And now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott. I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
What was that? Who's banging on the?
Thank you very much.
Who's banging on the door? I guess someone was like, I guess someone was really excited. They started banging on the. I was going to pull away. I'm so glad I didn't. I was gonna end early. I was like, you know what? We'll hang out for a minute. Wait a minute. And then all of a sudden it was like Donald Trump going, I don't want him here. Get him out of here. Somalians. Get all those Somalians out of here. What are they even doing here? They just moan and complain. And man, Fox News right now. Breaking news. Trump, I don't want Somalians in our country. That is I can't wait. I should probably listen to see. I don't know how they're going to handle this on Fox News, but that was, you know what? Look, it's true. It's on Donald Trump being honest. You always say you want transparency. You always say you want honesty in politics. Well, with Donald Trump, you get it. I don't want these people. Ilhan Omar is a terrible person. She comes here, she complains, she whines, she kvetches. The Somalians, they're all on welfare. They steal billions of dollars from Minnesota. Get them out of it. We don't need them in this country. And I know it's not politically correct to say that, but I don't care. Donald Trump was not that's great. I can't wait to turn that one into a YouTube short that goes viral. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that here in just a minute. By the way, speaking of which, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks so much for watching the cabinet meeting with me. It's always fun to watch those things together, isn't it? I always love that. Especially because we got to catch some of the highlights. And then at the very end there, we had Marco Rubio leading into the questions from Donald Trump. And then the whole monologue that would be a great monologue. I don't know if anyone's ever, like when I was in high school, I used to do these, we'd have to like audition for these roles and things like that. And we had to do monologues and debate class and stuff like that. I'm going to pull that monologue. There's two monologues I'm going to pull today. One is the Pete Hegseth, Colonel Jessup monologue. And then I'm going to pull that monologue from the end when Donald Trump was talking about Somalians. And if I ever audition for anything ever again, that's going to be my go-to. Maybe I'll do a TikTok. Maybe I'll do a TikTok with that one and see how that goes. Hey, listen, thanks again for subscribing. Thanks for listening. Don't forget that we'll be here every single day bringing you all the truth and the news and the information that you need. Make sure that you set those notifications. Make sure you set that little ringy ding so that whenever we go live, you get notified because we're continuing to grow every single day and we need more Patriots all over the world. We need more people showing up. We need more people supporting us. We need more people seeking the truth. I will give it to whoever is here. It's really easy. All I have to do is talk to the microphone, and all you have to do is listen. So that's, like I said, we make it as easy as possible, but that's how you're going to stay informed and entertained and ready, willing, and able to fight. Whether it's drug boats or Somalians or whatever else, we will fight so we can save the Republic. We're going to have an after party here in just a few minutes. This will be a very short after party. Not very short, usual. It'll be the usual length, but we would love it if you were if you're a member of the Patriot Club to come on by and hang out for the after party. If you're not a member of the Patriot Club, you can become one. It's a very nominal fee, and it's quite entertaining and